Can you hear me? Huh? Can you hear me?
Okay, members, we are now live. Welcome to everybody to the 30th of January Finance and Assets meeting. We have a problem for those watching online or listening online. We have a problem with the visual pictures online, but we are streaming the words. So there is a blank sheet on a slide on the YouTube that will show people that we can't get the pictures, but they can actually hear us. So that's been the reason for the delay, and apologies to everybody watching at home or trying to listen at home for that delay. So I'd like to welcome everybody to the meeting, and with no further ado, I'll go to public question time.
Thank you, Chair. We've had one question sent in by a member of the public that is here, and I believe you have it in front of you.
Yes, thank you, Jane. I've got a copy of it. If Mr. Martin wants to come forward, if you could read the question out to us, Cameron, please, because for the benefit of people listening at home or members of the committee.
Certainly can. Thank you for the attendance again, the opportunity to speak in front of you all. So the question set that I've sent through follows on much from my last visit to see yourselves. It's with regards to seeking clarification with regards to the funding associated with the CPCA active travel capital. The crux of the questions really is associated with the work that's gone before, the good work that's gone before with regards to the prelim designs that we've had along the Stuntney Causeway, but also the overarching assessment for the Soham to Ely, establishing how and the status of those funding opportunities, the stage gates that those are working through, and where the programme will sit in order to provide visibility to the Stuntney residents in particular on where that's at. I know from the last minutes as well that the progression of that appears to have gone in the right direction, that we may already have plans afoot with the active travel team. But the questions really are in relation to understanding where the funding's at, the historic breakdown of those previous costs, how they've been accounted for in order to give us the best chance to secure the right level of funding for this cycle path, and also mainly to put myself forward again as a key contact for the active travel team in order to potentially prevent me knocking on your doors month after month, and have a bit more of a direct comms with the active travel team. So all said and done, really, it's a request to gauge the status of the funding, if that's progressed, how that's been built up, and then where and what we can do as a community to help support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. And as you say, you've proceeded your question. I believe officers, some of the cost breakdowns you were after are county council details, and I believe officers have sent you some details and contact details on that. But you can have a follow-up, but I'll just read out what the council is continuing to work with the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Combined Authority and Cambridgeshire County Council to deliver active travel improvements for the district. Proposals for funding the development of active travel routes in East Cambridgeshire, including Ely to Soham, is undergoing the Combined Authority Single Assurance Framework. The outline business case, which seeks funding for a programme of work funded by the Combined Authority's active travel capital funding, will seek final approval by the Investment Committee in March, following review by the Investment Panel in February. With regard to previous schemes, East Cambridgeshire District Council does not hold any of the information that you've requested, as the work was led by Cambridgeshire County Council. I understand that officers have already sent you the contact details for the Principal Active Travel Officer at Cambridgeshire County Council, so you can forward your request to them. I mean, that's our response, but just to add a couple of things, I sit on the Highways and Transport Committee at County Council, and I've certainly asked on 2 occasions, how do we get our schemes into the pipeline so that we're getting these schemes pushed a lot further forward. And I am the East Cambs rep on the investment committee as well. So I will see that submission when it comes forward in March. But over to you if you want to follow up on anything.
No, I mean, that's great. And I'd be keen to hear the outcome from Feb and March's meetings. I guess really the main concern was that the right level of funding had been applied. Again, I'm a little bit green to this, and so is the Stuntley community, but we were aware that there was a cost breakdown previously. We were aware it got right near to the point of potential detailed design and fell short a little bit. We just want to make sure and elevate our case to the best ability for the right levels of funding to be applied, so that we don't fall at the last hurdle again, really. But I'll wait for the outcome of the February and March meeting. You've got my contact details. Please, at any point, reach out to me so that I can then relay back to the team, the committees in Stuntley and further. But I do appreciate your efforts, appreciate your time on this one, and look forward to the next update.
Thank you, and equally, I appreciate your efforts on behalf of the residents of Stuntley. Thank you for your time, and obviously, thank you for your commitment to this. You're welcome to stay for as long as you want.
Yep, I might just hang on for a little.
Okay.
Thank you anyway.
Right.
Cheers.
Thank you. Okay, members. Item 2 is apologies and substitutions.
Thank you, Chair. We've received apologies from Councillor Alison Whelan, and Councillor Christine Colbert is in attendance as a substitute.
Okay, welcome, Councillor Colbert. Item 3 is declarations of interest. Any declarations from members? I'm seeing nothing. So obviously, if something comes up during the meeting that you become aware of that you should have declared an interest, please do it at that time. Item 4 is minutes of the meeting held on 28th of November 2024. Are members happy that I'll sign those later as a correct record? Again, I'm seeing no dissent, so thank you. Chair, item 5, Chair's announcements. I've not got no announcements at this stage. Item 6 then is moving on to the 2025 annual Treasury Management Strategy, minimum revenue provision policy statement, and annual investment strategy. It's quite a mouthful there. But if I can hand over to Ian Smith to introduce that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Committee is asked to recommend the strategy to full council for approval. There is little change in the strategy from last year. All capital spending, which requires borrowing, will be funded from internal borrowing, and additional cash will be invested, taking into account security, liquidity, and yield in that order. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ian. This is something we've got to recommend to full council to approve. So I'm happy to propose it from the chair.
Happy to second it, Chair.
Okay. I'll now move on to, are there any questions of Ian or officers on this? Seeing nothing. Is there any member who wants to make a comment in a debate? Councillor Whelan.
Yeah,
The benefit, councillor Christine, for the benefit, obviously, we're not live, we're not visual, so I will refer to councillor Christine Whelan. Thank you.
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chair. Page 29 on the report, the figures don't quite add up. I'm a little bit 26, 27, the estimate of 11,041 on the CFR brought forward, and the movement was 3,377, but the total at year end was 5,114. Now that sum doesn't equate to me. That should be 7,664. Little bit concerning that that's wrong. I haven't checked all the other figures, but quite honestly, if that's wrong, what else doesn't quite add up on that? So I'm not happy to let this go through with those errors on there.
Councillor Shepherd.
Just to say that there are more errors on page 33.
They've just carried through, haven't they? Yeah. It's the same figure carried through. Any thoughts on that, Ian?
But it's not, it's actually 24, 25 estimate is different. Where's the other one? 11,041, 8491, the 5114, which is wrong, is included. And then the last year, 2027-28 estimate, that is right again. So there's something going wrong with the figures flowing through on the spreadsheet.
Acknowledge there's something not quite right. The figures are produced on a spreadsheet, but they are manually typed into this document. So I've probably typed them wrong. I will make sure they're corrected before it comes to full council.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Bailey.
Can we be assured, Ian, that it's not going to make a significant material difference to enable us to, still recommend this to full council subject to your correcting the figures?
Yeah, what I said in my opening remarks about not needing external borrowing will remain the case.
Councillor Trapp, I believe you wanted to come in.
Yes, we're not sure actually whether it's the movement which is wrong or the actual total at the end. So perhaps once we should be that should be clear as to which is which, what is the error, I suppose actually the calculation should be done automatically on the spreadsheet. I would have thought, if one's using a spreadsheet. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on that? I would imagine these are spreadsheets copied onto a table, onto a Word table, aren't they? Onto Word. Yeah.
If I can refer members to page 80 of the report this evening. The borrowing forecast at the bottom of that gives the correct breakdown to get to the 5114 figure. But I will make sure that's reflected in the treasury management strategy for full council.
Yes, councillor Goldsack, sorry.
Just to be absolutely clear then, Ian, what we're looking at here is the movement calculations that have come out incorrect, not the actual end figures.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct, yeah.
See, I've just done a quick calculation. It should be, the movement should be 5927, not 3377. If you look at bottom of page 80, as Ian says, that's where that for somehow the spreadsheet has got screwed in coming across from the spreadsheet. And obviously that's compounded with, as Councillor Shepherd quite rightly pointed out, well, no, the actual starting figure is okay on page 33, isn't it? It's the movement. Okay, with that, obviously we'll get those amended and we'll get those checked through as well. But this has got to come to full council anyway, so we get a chance to discuss it then. Are members happy? So, Councillor Whelan, yeah.
As long as we've got absolute assurance that these figures will be updated and properly put onto the system as correct.
I'm happy to give you that assurance that we will check through to make sure. It looks like one number of movements somehow has got skewed in being transferred across, but obviously we will make sure that what comes to full council is correct. Do we need to make that as an amendment to the recommendation? I'm thinking.
I propose that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so the wording of your, just to get it correct for the minutes, is that we will, the movement in 20, sorry, we got sheet there, in 26, 27 will be adjusted to the correct figure, and those figures will be correct, checked before it comes back to full council. I think members happy with that. I think that's a reasonable, because obviously we need to get this to full council. I don't want to hold it back, but equally I want the right numbers going to full council. So with that amendment, is everybody happy with that? And thank you for spotting that, Councillor Whelan. Sorry, did you? Yeah. Is everybody in favour of that? I think that's unanimous. Thank you for that. That's very useful. Moving on then, item 7 is the revenue budget, capital strategy and council tax 2025-2026. We have had a motion put forward for that in terms of the recommendations. Do you want to? I'll go to Ian first, though. Yeah. Do you want to introduce it? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Committee is asked to recommend to full council to approve the budget. Budget is currently balanced in 25-26 and 26-27 using the surplus savings reserve and an assumption that council tax will be built in at the maximum amount of £5 each year. It should be noted that we still await the information on the NNDR1 return and the final local government finance settlement, which could potentially change the figures.
Okay, thank you. As I say, we have had a motion on that in terms of recommending the council to approve, and there'll be changes to the revenue budget and the MTFS as in the papers that were circulated on Tuesday. Councillor Bailey, did you want to propose that?
Yeah, happy to propose, Chair.
And I'm happy to second that from the chair. So do you want to speak to that?
Yeah,
motion?
just briefly. I'm not intending to make great long speeches, but you know, we've looked very carefully at the figures that Ian's carefully put before us, and we thank the team very much as usual for you know, an excellent budget and MTFS that's before us, because it's only thanks to well, frankly, all officers across the whole council, that we are able to be sitting in this position. But we do have a promise to only raise council tax as a last resort. And, you know, we are certainly a long way from last resort position. And so our motion actually has the effect of asking to recommend to full council another year of council tax freeze, which will be the 12th year. And also in those figures, I'd just like to draw attention to the fact that there is a proposal not to increase the commuter car parking charges either. So Angel Drove, etc., will remain at the same rate that they are, which is good value, and it does encourage people to get on the train. So it's a good thing. And also just that there's a new paragraph to the motion that wasn't in the original paperwork at 2.3, which is to authorise the Director of Finance to bring forward proposals to Council to identify savings to balance both the forthcoming year and the year two, which is what we've always managed to achieve for a very, very long time now. And actually, I'm barring any horrible, nasty, negative shocks coming out the final settlement figures from government, I am confident that we will be able to present a balanced position for 2 years when this comes to full council. So I hope everybody can, on that basis, can support, you know, the idea of a council tax freeze going forward as a recommendation to full council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, councillor Bailey. Any other comments on this or questions? Because I didn't do questions, apologies to Ian, but any other? No? Oh, did you want to come in, councillor Trapp? Sorry.
Yeah, is it about the appendix 75, page 75? There's a couple of things there that for instance, environmental, that's the operational services, is suddenly dropped from 162,000 to 52,000. Is there any reason for that?
I think that is simply due to a restructuring within the council. Obviously, with Liz Knox leaving, there's been a restructure within the Environment and Waste Service, and I think staff have been moved from one area to a different area.
But wouldn't that show up somewhere else then?
Yeah, I mean, it shows in its, I mean, there's many movements, particularly on the waste lines, but there's additional staff costs within the waste service.
Is it absorbed into environmental health then? Because that seems to have gone up. It's difficult to clear up what's happening here.
I mean, I'm not sure we're going to be able to get to the bottom of it in this meeting, but I'm happy to discuss that with you offline.
Right, and the other one is recycling has suddenly dropped in the estimate for 2025-26 by, is that an accounting one that we're getting some credits then, or what's happening there?
Yeah, there's a new response, or there's a new line of funding coming in 25-26. The government are providing council's funding for the producers are now paying for recycling, a new packaging responsibility, and that money's been passed on to councils, and so therefore there's an additional funding stream there for us.
But then it reverts in future years back to 2000, about 2 million something, 600,000. So there's a blip suddenly in 25-26.
The costs go up in 26-27 because at that point we will be introducing kitchen waste collections, which is additional rounds, etc., which will cause additional costs.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, councillor Trapp. I've got councillor Hunt.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say thank you to Ian and his colleagues for yet another year of good management, and it is good management because there's been an underspend of well over £500,000, which I think is a real feather in the cap of Ian. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you for that. Councillor Colbert.
So sorry. I was just curious about pest control, the estimate for next year or the forthcoming years.
What page are you on?
Sorry,
Page 75.
Still on 75.
In the middle of operational services.
Again, that's an adjustment relating to the restructuring as part of the environment team.
Okay, thank you. I thought that was probably the answer. I just wanted to be clear. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm seeing no more hands. In which case, we've got the revised, so I'm happy to second it. I've got nothing to add. Have you got anything to add to this, Councillor Bailey? No. For the benefit of those at home, I'll read out the recommendation. It is rather long, so bear with me. 2.1, the committee recommends to council to approve the draft revenue budget for 25-26 from MTFS for 26-27 to 28-29 as set out in revised Appendix A. The statement of reserves as set out in revised Appendix B. The capital strategy and financing as set out in Appendix 3. The 2025-26 fees and charges as set out in Appendix 4. The application of the retail, hospitality and leisure 40% business rate relief, which will be fully funded by the government through Section 31 as detailed in Section 6.6, 6.7 of this report, and any other business rate reliefs that may be announced in the national budget. The changes to the local council tax reduction scheme and premiums for local long-term empty and second homes as detailed in Sections 11.8 and 11.9 of the report. And then to authorise the Director of Finance in consultation with the Chairman of the Committee to adjust the use of the surplus savings reserve in 2025 and future years to ensure that the net budget as detailed in 2.1 remains unchanged in the event of any additional information becoming available, principally in relation to the final local government settlement. These adjustments to be made in advance of the report being presented to full council on the 25th of February. And then to the third bullet point, 2.3, to authorise the Director of Finance to bring forward proposals to council to identify savings to balance the 2026-27 estimate as detailed in the revised Appendix A. I think I'm right in thinking that, Ian, we haven't got the final settlement yet, so these figures could change slightly before full council.
That's correct. We haven't had the final settlement yet, and as also I said in my introduction, although I've now got the NNDR1 figures, they aren't included in this report either, but they'll be added as well before the council report.
So just for members' benefit before we vote, obviously when we go to full council, there will be a briefing note to explain any changes that have happened between this paper and what the government finally give us. All councillors are in that situation at the moment. Unfortunately, it's not ideal, but we are where we are, as they say. So can I ask for a show of hands in favour of this budget or amendment? And those against? Those abstaining? Okay, thank you. For the benefit of, again, for the benefit of those at home who can't see what's happening but can hear, that was, you want to read that out for me, Jane, please? Thank you.
The amendment is carried as there's 6 voting for and 6 abstaining. Thank you.
Thank you for members for that. We move on to finance report item 8, and again it's over to Ian Smith.
The current forecast for the Finance and Assets Committee is an underspend of £881,000. The current forecast for the council as a whole is an underspend of £602,000. It should be noted that the £602,000 underspend has been included in the budget figures as detailed in your previous paper. The details of the year-end variances in relation to the Finance and Assets Committee are detailed in paragraph 3.6 of the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Ian. This paper is just for noting, so members, do we have any questions or comments for Ian on this? Councillor Wade.
I mean, I suppose it's just an observation, really. I mean, I understand, we refer to staff vacancies as savings, and I think that is, of course, that's what they are technically, but I suppose it's just to note that there is there are quite a few, and I know we're going to touch on this in the exclude when we look at things, but while it's positive in cash terms, it's not necessarily positive in productivity or in services available to people. So I think just to note that there is a number of vacancies referred to in this paper.
Thank you for that. Any other comments from members? No, I'm seeing nothing. In which case, as I said, this is just for noting, so we've duly noted it. I move on to item 9, which is the assets update, and Spencer Clark is going to introduce the report.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick update from the report. So in the report, it does state that phase 1 of the depot car park improvements will start. I can confirm that started last weekend and will be completed hopefully this weekend. It's been carried out at weekends to make sure there's no disruption to any of the services that operate from the depot. And following on from last Finance and Assets, we had a brief discussion about the ticket machines down at the commuter car parks. I just want to say that we've now carried out a full audit of all the faults recorded and all the issues that were identified down there. And this has identified the frequency of the faults, the problematic machines that are down there, because there's 4 altogether. From this information, it gives us a proposal to put forward for the next year's asset programme. So, and we've also been able to carry out more frequent checks of the machines, because now we're fully staffed with both 2 car park wardens now engaged. We have more scope to go down there to check that they are operational more of the time and fix any simple problems. And then just a little update on the playground audit for all the parishes. We're now looking at carrying out the seminar with the parishes to talk through the whole process of what the audit's going to hopefully complete and find. We're going to hope to do that sort of late February, mid-March. That allows the parish conference to take place first. And we can then follow on from that with the seminar leading on to the full audit. That kind of concludes my update, Chair, but happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Spencer. I've got Councillor Akinwale and then Councillor Wade. I think you were indicated, yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much for the progress on the inclusive playgrounds. It's quite appreciated. There's a few questions I have in regards to the play equipment. The first one is, how will PIPA ensure its audit considers the needs of children with a broad range of abilities in the district?
We've been engaging with PIPA because they are leading, it's a charity, but they are the leading kind of experts in this field, and they've even been supporting central government with accessibility to playgrounds and that across nationally.
Thank you. Another question, could PIPA outline the method that will be using to assess its play area and its supporting infrastructure? What's the methodology that's going to be used?
Yeah, it's quite a wide remit they've got. So they're going to look at each playground individually for each parish, but the audit will include not just the playground, but facilities around that playground, but access to it, what other facilities are near there, because what they highlighted is when a family go out for the day, it's not just they just don't want to turn up and find that there's one item in a playground that's suitable for their child to use. And it's more about being inclusive as a family and a community. And that's just kind of the bigger brief, really.
Thank you. If a site wants a deeper audit, for instance, example, a planned refurbishment, how would that process differ from a standard audit? And is it included in the £5,000 cost?
Yeah, as part of the audit, and this will be explained at the seminar, it's that people will be telling each parish what information they need from and how, what type of information they need and photographs and things like that for each of their playgrounds. From that, they can carry out an individual audit of that playground, and then they will contact each parish individually and work with them individually on their individual needs and where they are with their own funding streams for projects and how far they're in with projects and that. So it's going to be done on a case by case. But at the present time, that is all in that costing to carry out that whole process.
Thank you. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Councillor Akinwale. Councillor Wade.
Yeah, I should declare a personal interest as an Ely resident, but do you have a timeline on the cloisters refurbishment and the public conveniences? I know we touched on this last time as well, I think.
Yeah, I haven't got a time, well, the timeline's stretched a little bit because I now want to include Palace Green toilets as well. There's been highlighted some issues in there that we need to address at the same time. So I'm now trying to look at as a whole and not just individual toilets. Is that okay?
Thank you, Councillor Wade. I've got Councillor Bailey.
I just wondered if you could give us a rough idea of what the sort of take-up is from the parish councils to be included in the audit. Do you know roughly? Or?
I had this last meeting and nobody asked a question and I haven't brought it this time.
Oh, I mean, is it lots or a handful or what?
It's all the parishes that I know have got playgrounds, because obviously not all have got playgrounds. It's just about, and there's a few that have already taken an independent route, like City of Ely have already had an audit carried out by Pippa. So yeah, quite a very good take up.
I'm seeing no other hands. Thank you for that, Spencer. I mean, the joint motion we had with myself and Councillor Akinwale, obviously I'm glad to see the progress. Obviously it's been frustrating that Pippa's resources didn't allow them to start it earlier, but at least we're getting there. So I'm interested to see that progressing, and hopefully it will progress at a reasonable speed. So I'm sure we can pick that up and push that forward. With that, as I say, we've just been, finally, Councillor Hunt as the asset champion. Have you got any comments to make?
No, there's nothing which isn't covered there, and I would say there are ongoing discussions about the Maltings cottage, and as soon as there's anything known there, then obviously it will come to this committee.
Okay, thank you for that. With that, I'm seeing nothing else, in which case, that is just for noting. So thank you, Spencer, for that. We move on to item 10, which is the Bereavement Centre Project Q3 update. We have got an exempt appendices on this. So obviously, if members do want to mention items on the exempt appendices, we'll have to go into confidential session. Obviously, I don't want to stop members commenting on that. So, Councillor Colbert. So you put your mic on, sorry.
I'm so sorry, Chairman. Yes. Members will be aware that I recently suffered a bereavement. And I would like to say that after discussion with my funeral directors, my husband's funeral took place at the Fenland Crematorium in March. I do not, in all honesty, believe that having a crematorium in Meeple would have benefited me as a resident. And I don't think it would have in any way improved the experience of my family and our friends. I therefore continue to be of the opinion that better use could be made of FDC's money and developer contributions than to proceed with the development. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Colbert, and obviously many apologies about your recent bereavement, many sympathies. I'll go to Isabel Edgar, who's going to introduce the paper.
Thank you, Chair. So members will recall that last time we were in the stage 3 process of the design of the bereavement centre, and we've been undertaking a substantial review of the design to ensure the deliverability of the scheme. So as we moved from stage 3 into stage 4, we had some further detailed surveys and detailed design undertaken. For example, now that we have all the levels of the site, we've been able to redesign some of the elements around drainage and landscaping, and this has allowed us to rationalise some of the areas of design and reduce risk around the complexity of the build and on the site, and to make better use of the environment. Due to this work, we've seen a positive de-escalation in risk, and I know members were interested in some of the risk profiling that we had provided in the previous report. So just to sort of bring that to light for you, for example, in a recent survey, we've been able to identify that there is only a small area of the land which is contaminated, which not only reduces the amount of land that we have to remediate, but it means that we can use far more of the soil and sand on site in other areas of the site, so reusing it on site rather than having to move it off. The Wildlife Trust is also very supportive of this approach, and we're working very closely with them because they've advised that actually using the ground on site will enable the ecology to flourish because it likes disturbed land, so that's very promising. And we've also got them involved in helping us undertake our ecology management plan as well. And we'll have, and we've already programmed in our final wildlife surveys that take us through to September of this year. So now we're moved into the close down of the stage 4 process in line with our programme. And because of these changes, we are required to go back to planning with a Section 73 application, which allows for the variation of the existing permission on a number of areas. So, for example, like I've said about the drainage, we've made some changes and therefore we need to update our planning permission. And we anticipate this going back into being submitted into planning in the next couple of weeks. We have also undertaken our stage 1 of our procurement process. And we have now identified a preferred bidder that will be brought onto the project to undertake a transparent costing exercise. The benefits of the procurement approach that we've chosen are detailed in the report, and the final tendered costs will be known at the beginning of April. So all in all, the project remains on track with a reduced risk profile, and the primary red risk still remains the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabel. Members, any questions? Was that a hand, Councillor Shepherd? Okay. Looks like it might be you're the only word taker at the moment.
Well, it does relate to the exempt paper. But I think, particularly if I'm very careful what I say, there is no need to go into private session and the fuss of that.
Obviously, as you say, you've got to be very careful that you don't refer
Well,
to.
if you think I'm not, then you can tell me to be quiet.
Yes, okay.
With that
All right.
proviso, I'm more than
Yeah,
happy.
that's fair.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want you to go, I mean, you know, I just want to say, we've received this paper, and on the second page, as I read those lines, it says for every single one of the lines on there that the information is not applicable. NA, not applicable, it says. On the front page, it's a risk analysis, as we've known, and it does have some comments about the project, but they say no numbers in it and no big scary things in it. In fact, the numbers in it, the comment in it, is less than the comment we've just received about the paper that's in the public domain. And then on the final bit, on the financial bit, it has got some numbers and it's got some dates. All of those numbers or dates are in the public paper. They're exactly the same as in the public printed paper. So I simply say is there really a value in putting this out in the way that it is? It's a big sheet with colours and things on. If we hadn't wanted to discuss it, we would have had to go into exempt status. And I just query whether or not that needed to have been done like that.
Okay, thank you for that. I mean, it's something, I don't know if there's anything you want to comment on that, Isabel, or?
Yeah, members will recall that I took away an action at the last meeting to discuss this document here is produced by the project managers, not myself. And the detail within it is more detailed around some of the existing risks that we're still experiencing, where we're able to de-escalate risks. That is for the benefit of the project as a whole. Where we are still managing risks around surveys or waiting for information to come back from those surveys, I've been advised by the project managers to keep that information in exempt session because it does relate, even risks that aren't financial, they will relate back to the commerciality of the build of the project. And therefore it remains in exempt session while we're undertaking a live procurement process, which we're in at the moment.
Okay, thank you for that, Isabel. I've got Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, just a couple of things. Just on that subject, I mean, we did have quite a detailed, I remember we had a detailed discussion about this, I think it was at the last Finance and Assets Committee when I think it was Councillor Kane that raised exactly the same point. And, you know, the exempt document is a document that has integrity in its own right. And if you start extracting things out of it and not displaying them in the table, then you can't read the document coherently as a whole. It is a working document that is updated and changed regularly as the situation changes. Clearly, there are elements within that document that are able to be in the public domain, but that is absolutely normal. And there's no reason why you can't talk about the timelines, for example, because they are in the public domain. The fact that they are reproduced in the dashboard document, I don't think should be a surprise, really. So anyway, Isabel's given an explanation about why some of the risks remain exempt. Really, what I just wanted to say was, you know, I think I'm very excited. I know it's a boring subject to be excited about a particular framework that's been chosen, but it is a good procurement framework. I think it will stand us in good stead, and I think it's going to give us whatever the figures are when they eventually come back, and we are expecting them to rise, we know that. But I think it will stand us in good stead that we can be assured that we're getting good value for money because of the way that this framework works, because every single line on the budget is scrutinised by both the organisation putting the prices forward, but by our own project team. So we should have really good assurance in terms of value for money by the end of it. And, you know, it is a fixed element of profit that's written into that framework scheme. So it is a very known quantity, in other words, is really what I'm saying. It's really good to see an improving position on the risk profile and, you know, de-escalating some of those difficult things on site that we thought might cause issues. That's really good. And a very positive story on the ecology. So I think, thank you for, you know, the laser-like focus that the project team has. I know they are all over everything, and we really appreciate it. And, you know, we're just looking forward to, you know, hearing the outcome of the procurement process, which I think we'll know more about later on in the spring. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. I've got Councillor Trapp.
Thank you very much. The procurement process, or whatever you're doing, sorry, the framework. I know that in the November meeting of this committee, it was said that the costs had escalated a bit, and obviously you've done some value engineering, and that this will be going forward to planning committee. Is that right? Will it be going to planning committee? Would it be open to comment?
No, it doesn't need, it's already got planning permission.
But surely, depending on the number, what modifications and what changes have been made, it may be fairly substantial or not. We have no indication of this is what's happening.
No, so there are some minor changes to the design of things like drainage, so under the ground stuff that you're not really going to see. We've made some minor changes to some of the landscaping to improve the ecology on the site. So we've reduced the amount of roadway on the site and things like that. I did sort of take us through a bit of a detail of what those changes were at the last committee, but that will be in the public. We'll be submitting that so you can see some of the changes, but they won't be big visual changes that you'll be able to notice if you looked at either of the plans, if you see what I mean, other than some of the landscape, which is actually an improvement.
Well, thank you for that.
I think if I can come in there, councillor Trapp, I mean, if you look at 4.6, if there are the final tender costs are within budget, then start on site in May 2025, but currently the final tender costs are due to be considered by full council on the 22nd of May. So this obviously will come to full council on the 22nd of May. I'm seeing no other hands. We're being asked to note this, and I'd like to thank Councillor Shepherd for very expertly treading around the exempt document. I was a bit concerned, but I think you did it well, and I don't think you actually. But no, thank you for that. It was a very valid contribution which you made. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Isabel, for the paper. And as I say, we're just being asked to note that. So thank you. We move on to item 11, which is the constitutional update. And again, over to Ian Smith.
Thank you, Chair. With the Procurement Act 2023 coming into effect on the 24th of February, we are required to update our contract procedure rules to ensure they detail the new requirements. Therefore, as the contract procedure rules are part of the Constitution, I'm asking committee to recommend to full council that they approve these revised procedure rules. Can I also just make one comment that since drafting these, some job titles, it's been noticed that some job titles need updating, so I will be updating job titles before they go to full council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. So this is, we're being asked to recommend this to full council, and as it's a policy matter, I'm happy to propose this from the chair.
I'm happy to second, Chair.
Do I have any question? Councillor Wade.
Yeah, but if I could ask a technical question, and I did try and find out, but I couldn't find any reference to it. The additional implications assessment, what can I find definition of what the threshold needs to be met? I suppose just because on looking at this, it feels like it might have some resource implication in the sense that there is more to it and that more things might have to go through a procurement process, but perhaps that just falls under the thresholds. But I was just interested that a lot of these things come with categoric no on the additional implications assessment, and this one just instinctively felt like it might have some implications in terms of resource needed, training, etc., etc.
I think that's right. I think there will be more resource need. Exactly how much is difficult to quantify at this point, but we do have a software system at the moment which we're going to be extending the use of to provide us with this additional functionality, and we currently have that. We currently procure a procurement service through the county council, and the county council officer is going to be providing training to ECD staff on the software before we go live.
Thank you. I suppose it's a general question. Apologies.
Yeah, of course.
Is this, who should I ask if there is a definition of this additional implications assessment I could, so that just so I could interpret the papers better? Like, how does something fall into a category of needing a yes or a no, just for education purpose?
Just trying to clarify.
Yes, apologies. So it's just at the end of all of these policy or these briefs that there is a 6 box additional implications assessment, and I would just like to understand what would be the threshold for something being a yes? Just so that I can understand what does a no mean and what would what would fall into a threshold of a yes? Just out of interest, because it's there, so I presume I'm supposed to infer something from it.
I think we'll,
Like, I don't expect an answer now.
no,
just
no,
that
we'll,
the
we'll
names
we'll
to
take that
infer
away
from.
and come back to you
I
on
tried
this.
to
It's a
have a quick
valid, it's a
look, but-
valid question, yeah, thank
Okay,
you, Mary.
Thank you.
We'll put that up. Councillor Trapp, I've got you next.
What is the relevant UK procurement threshold at the moment? Does one know that? Oh, that's on page 137. I couldn't see it further down. Is it 100,000? Is it 1,000? It's 3.2.
The question was about the relevant UK procurement. threshold,
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I was making notes after Councillor Wade's question.
I'm sorry.
Quite-
The question, yes, it's about
It's
what.
in Appendix 1, sorry.
I mean, clearly the procurement level continue changes, and that's why we don't put an actual value into the document itself, but I'm happy to. let you
But
know what
I
that
mean,
is
what
offline.
what I'm asking for is what it is roughly at the moment. I mean, is it 50,000, 100,000,
Oh,
500,000?
it's well over.
It's in
100,000.
page 161.
It's well over 100,000.
Yeah.
Page 161, Appendix 1.
It varies, doesn't it? Depending on what it is.
It's outlined on page 161.
Right, okay.
I'll email it.
Yeah, as has just been said, page 161,
Yeah.
they're the UK procurement thresholds there. Does that answer your question, Councillor?
Yes, it does.
Good.
It's quite a lot, isn't it, the threshold?
Yes, it is quite high.
I mean, that's, I was trying to find, is it really that much? I mean, yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? No, I'm seeing it. As I say, we're being asked to recommend this to full council. And as Ian said, some of the job titles will be changed, but apart from that, are members happy with that? I'm seeing no dissenting on that, so I take that as unanimous. Thank you. And we will obviously get back to your question, Councillor Wade. Item 12 is the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Policy 2025-2028. And I've got Nicole, the HR manager, to introduce it. We did have a look at this draft policy back in September. So members have already had a look at this. So hopefully whatever you commented on at the time has been adjusted, but I'll hand over to Nicole.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so to ensure transparency and to assist in the performance of the public sector equality duty, the Council introduced a 4-year Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Policy. The current policy ran from 2021 to 2024 and has been updated for the period 2025 to 2028. The draft policy was approved for consultation by the Finance and Assets Committee on the 26th of September. And following that, we had a period of public consultation. The responses are shown in Appendix 2. And the changes that have been made to the policy are set out in 4.2. And members are now requested to formally adopt the Equality and Diversity policy as set out in Appendix 1. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Nicole. I've got Councillor Christine Wheeling.
Yeah, the survey or the consultation you did, the results, it's like some of the tables say 6. Is that, how many groups did you actually contact? If you look on the, when it says 6, sure it says 6.
In terms of the groups that
Yeah.
I contacted all of the ones on that I was given from our communities team.
Yeah, so feedback from, yeah, so
Community
it's page
groups.
201. If you look at the actual, if you actually look at the total, it's like 6. Is that 6, just 6 people or 6 groups or
It was just 6 responses, yeah, we had.
just 6
Yes.
responses?
Yeah.
That's not very many, really,
No.
is it?
No,
No.
we had a lot more last time we did it.
Thank you, councillor Christine William. Obviously, we're being asked to formally adopt this, so do I have a proposer?
I'm happy to propose, Chair, on the basis, obviously, we discussed this quite a lot before. And I'm happy with the wording changes that I've read through.
Councillor Christine William?
Yeah, I'm happy to second. I'm really pleased to see that equity as being put in instead of equality, and then that's being put in place of equality. As we all know, the equity is far different from actual equality, and I just feel that that is like really important.
Yes, we've referenced that, which I think is important. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I think I mentioned it when we discussed this back in, I'd been on a school governor training course and we had a brilliant presentation about difference between equality and equity. So and this, I think, happened about 3 weeks, our September meeting was about 2 or 3 weeks after I'd had that course. So I totally share, but thank you for seconding the proposal, councillor Whelan. Members, again, I'm seeing no dissent on this. I think hopefully, thank you, Nicole, for the changes. And obviously it's sad in some ways that we've only had 6 responses, but I think the document has gone a long way to what we want. So thank you for that. Just being reminded we need to vote on that, but I think I didn't see any dissent on that, so I'm happy to take that as unanimous. Yeah, thank you. Item 13 is the annual agenda plan. And the next meeting is the 27th of March. Members, any comments or anything you want to add to the agenda plan, to the agenda that day? No, I'm seeing nothing. In which case, that, as I say, is just for noting. That brings us to the end of the public session of the meeting. So can I go to the wording that the press, the exclusion of the public, including representatives of the press, that the press and public be excluded during the consideration of the remaining items because it is likely, in view of the nature of the business to be transacted or the nature of the proceedings, that if members of the public were present during the items, there would be disclosure to them of exempt items of category 1 and 3 of part 1, schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. Members, are you all in favour of that? Do I have a proposer for that? I'll propose that from the chair. Okay, you all in favour? Thank you. In which case, yeah. In which case that brings us to the end of the public session. I'd like to thank those members of the press and public listening online, and apologies that they couldn't see us in full Technicolor, but hopefully it didn't harm the enjoyment of the meeting. And I'd like to thank Mr. Martin for his question and continued pursuance of the active travel and the cycleway for Stuntney. But thank you very much for that question. I'm sure we will be discussing things in the near future. We'll take a couple of minutes break now, members, while the live stream goes down, I think.